The rope cut into Anna Carter's wrists as her father's voice boomed across Dry Hollow's frozen marketplace. $20 for my daughter, scarred but strong. Laughter rippled through the crowd until boots crunched through snow, silencing them all. William Hayes, the quiet rancher everyone whispered about, dropped a leather pouch at her father's feet. Then impossibly he knelt before her trembling form and spoke words that shattered everything she believed about herself. You're beautiful. Be my wife. Dear listeners, stay with me through this incredible journey, and don't forget to comment your city below. I love seeing how far these stories travel. The winter of 1874 had been particularly cruel to Montana Territory, but nothing compared to the cruelty Anna Carter faced that morning in Dry Hollow's marketplace. Ice crystals hung in the air like suspended tears as she stood barefoot in the snow, her thin dress doing nothing to shield her from the bitter wind that cut through the valley. The scar that ran from her left temple down to her jaw throbbed in the cold, a permanent reminder of the fire that had taken everything from her 3 years ago. Look at her closely, gentlemen. Tom Carter's voice slurred with whiskey despite the early hour. She cooks, she cleans, and she don't talk back no more. $20 and she's yours. Anna kept her eyes fixed on the frozen ground, counting the seconds, counting the breaths, counting anything to keep her mind from the reality of what was happening. Her father had threatened this before, but she'd never believed he'd actually go through with it. Not here, not in front of the whole town. Tom, you can't be serious, old Henry the blacksmith called out from the gathering crowd. That's your daughter, not livestock, Bree. She's whatever I say she is. Tom spat, yanking the rope that bound Anna's wrists, forcing her to stumble forward. Been feeding her for 23 years, and what do I got to show for it? A scarred face that scares away every decent man in the territory. The crowd had grown larger now, drawn by the spectacle like vultures to carrion. Anna recognized most of the faces, people she'd known her whole life, people who'd eaten her mother's pie at church socials, people who'd offered condolences when the fire took her younger sister Mary. Now they just stared, some with pity, others with disgust, most with a kind of morbid curiosity that made her stomach turn. $15, someone shouted from the back, followed by harsh laughter. Make it 10, another voice called. That scar's going to give me nightmares. Each word was a knife, each laugh a fresh wound. Anna felt her knees beginning to buckle, but she forced herself to remain standing. She wouldn't give them the satisfaction of seeing her break. Not here. Not like this. $20 is the price? Tom bellowed, his face red with rage and drink. She ain't pretty, but she's strong. Work her from dawn to dusk, she won't complain. I made sure of that. The implications in his words sent a visible shudder through the crowd. Some of the women turned away, pulling their children close, but still, no one intervened. This was Tom Carter's business, and in Dry Hollow, you didn't interfere with a man's business, no matter how wrong it seemed. Anna's mind drifted to her mother dead these 5 years from consumption. Margaret Carter would have fought like a wildcat to prevent this. She would have stood between Tom and Anna with that fierce love that had once made their small cabin feel like a fortress against the world. But Margaret was gone, and with her had gone any protection Anna might have had from her father's worst impulses. Don't look at me, she whispered, the words barely audible, more prayer than plea. Please don't look at me. But they did look. They all looked. Then cutting through the murmur of the crowd like a blade through silk came the sound of steady footsteps. Not hurried, not hesitant, just deliberate and sure. The crowd parted like the Red Sea, and through the gap walked a man Anna had seen but never spoken to, William Hayes. He was tall, perhaps 6 feet, with broad shoulders that spoke of years of hard labor. His face was weathered by 30-some years under the Montana sun, his dark hair touched with premature silver at the temples. But it was his eyes that made people step aside, gray as a winter storm, holding a depth that suggested he'd seen his share of darkness and somehow found his way through it. William Hayes was something of a mystery in Dry Hollow. He'd arrived 5 years ago, purchased the old Morrison ranch 10 miles outside town, and had built it into one of the most successful cattle operations in the territory. He came to town only when necessary, bought his supplies, conducted his business, and left. No one knew where he'd come from or what had driven him to this remote corner of Montana. The few who'd tried to pry had been met with polite but firm silence. Now he stood before Tom Carter, his expression unreadable. $20, you said. William's voice was deep, steady, carrying the kind of authority that didn't need volume to command attention. Tom's eyes lit up with greed. That's right. $20 and she's yours. Do whatever you want with her, she's used to hard work. William reached into his coat and pulled out a leather pouch. Without counting, without hesitating, he tossed it at Tom's feet. The pouch landed with a heavy thud that spoke of considerably more than $20. Take it, William said simply. And the rope. Tom scrambled for the pouch, his fingers shaking as he opened it. His eyes widened at the contents, gold coins, more money than he'd seen in years. This is 3 times what I asked. The extra is to ensure you never come looking for her. William said, his tone making it clear this wasn't a request. She's mine now. You have no claim on her, no right to her, nothing. Are we clear? Tom nodded eagerly, already backing away with his treasure. Clear as crystal, Mr. Hayes. She's all yours. Good riddance to the ugly. William's hand shot out, grabbing Tom by the collar before he could finish the sentence. You'll not speak of her again, he said quietly, but there was steel in his voice that made Tom's face go pale. Not to me, not to anyone. As far as you're concerned, she no longer exists. Understood? Yes, sir, Mr. Hayes, understood.
Botsko Matseki.
William released him, and Tom scurried away like the rat he was clutching his blood money. The crowd remained watching, waiting to see what the mysterious rancher would do with his purchase. William turned to Anna then, and she braced herself for whatever was coming. She'd heard stories of what men did to women they bought, especially scarred, worthless women that nobody else wanted. But instead of grabbing her, instead of dragging her away like property, William Hayes did something that stunned everyone watching. He took off his heavy wool coat and wrapped it around her shoulders with a gentleness that made her flinch more than violence would have. The coat was warm from his body heat, smelling of leather and pine and something indefinably safe. Then, impossibly, he knelt in the snow before her. The crowd gasped. Men didn't kneel to women, especially not women they'd just purchased like cattle. But William Hayes knelt, and when he looked up at Anna's face, scarred, tear-stained, filled with terror and confusion, his gray eyes held something she'd never seen directed at her before. Respect. You're beautiful, he said loud enough for everyone to hear. Be my wife. The marketplace erupted in shocked whispers, but Anna couldn't hear them over the roaring in her ears. This had to be a trick, a cruel joke. Men like William Hayes didn't marry scarred women. They didn't kneel in the snow and call them beautiful when everyone could see the truth written across her face. I don't understand, she managed to whisper. William rose slowly, his movements careful, as if she were a wild animal that might bolt. It's simple, he said. I'm asking you to marry me. Not ordering asking. You have a choice. Choice? The word felt foreign on her tongue. When had she ever had a choice? Always, William said firmly. I bought your freedom from that man, but I don't own you. No one owns you. If you want to leave, take the coat, take money, go wherever you wish. But if you're willing, I'd like you to come home with me, as my wife. Why? The question escaped before she could stop it. Why would you want? She gestured helplessly at herself, at the scar, at everything that made her unmarriageable. William's expression softened. 3 weeks ago, I saw you at Miller's store, he said. You were helping Mrs. Patterson with her packages while her baby cried. You sang to that child just a few notes of a lullaby, and he stopped crying. You had flour in your hair and a smile on your face, and I thought I'd never seen anything more beautiful in my life. Anna's hand went unconsciously to her scar. But my face has a scar, William interrupted gently. It's part of you, but it doesn't define you. I've watched you, Anna Carter. I've seen how you help others even when your own burdens are heavy. I've seen you give your lunch to the Morrison children when you thought no one was looking. I've seen you tend to Mrs. Ellis when she was sick, even though she said cruel things about your appearance. You have a good heart, and that's beautiful to me. The crowd had gone completely silent, now hanging on every word. This wasn't how things were done in Dry Hollow. This wasn't how anywhere was done in 1874, but William Hayes had never been one to follow conventions. I don't even know you, Anna said weakly. No, William agreed. But I'd like to change that. Come home with me. We'll be married proper by the minister, all legal and binding. You'll have a roof over your head, food on the table, and safety. No one will ever tie you to a post again. No one will ever sell you or beat you or make you feel less than human. I can promise you that much. And in return, Anna had to ask, there was always a price. Always. In return, maybe someday you'll sing lullabies in our home like you did for the Patterson baby, William said simply. Maybe someday you'll smile at me the way you smiled with flour in your hair. But if that day never comes, you'll still be safe. You'll still be free. That's my promise. The minister, Reverend Phillips, pushed through the crowd. William, surely you're not serious about this. The girl is... He caught William's eye and swallowed whatever he was about to say. That is, marriage is a sacred institution. I agree, William said, never taking his eyes off Anna. Which is why I'm offering it to someone sacred, someone who's survived hell and still has kindness in her heart, someone who deserves better than what this town has given her. He extended his hand to Anna. What do you say? Will you take a chance on a lonely rancher who knows a treasure when he sees one? Anna stared at his outstretched hand. It was calloused from work strong steady, not raised to strike, but offered an invitation. Around them the crowd waited. Some she knew were hoping she'd refuse just for the scandal it would cause. Others were already composing the gossip they'd spread by nightfall. But in that moment, Anna made the first real choice of her adult life. She took his hand. The walk to William's wagon was the longest and shortest of Anna's life. The crowd parted before them, some calling out congratulations that sounded more like condolences, others simply staring in shocked silence. She kept her eyes forward, acutely aware of William's presence beside her, not touching, except for her hand in his, but somehow creating a barrier between her and the worst of the stares. The wagon was well-made sturdy, with supplies covered by a thick tarp in the back. William helped her up onto the bench seat with the same careful courtesy he might have shown a lady in silk and jewels, rather than a barefoot woman in a torn dress. He tucked the coat more securely around her shoulders before climbing up beside her. Wait, Reverend Phillips came huffing up beside them. If you're serious about this marriage, William, it should be done proper. Come to the church. William looked at Anna. What would you prefer? Again that strange word, prefer, as if her preferences mattered. I don't... The church is warm, William said gently. And it would make things legal beyond question. But if you'd rather wait, we can do this another day. No, Anna said quickly, surprising herself. If she was going to do this, better to do it now before her courage failed. The church. The ceremony was surreal. Anna stood in the small church where she'd once attended services with her mother and sister, wearing William's coat over her threadbare dress, her feet still bare on the cold floor. William stood beside her solid and sure, while Reverend Phillips read the vows with obvious reluctance. Do you, William Hayes, take this woman to be your lawfully wedded wife? I do. No hesitation, no doubt. Do you, Anna Carter, take this man to be your lawfully wedded husband? Anna's voice caught. This morning she'd woken in her father's cold cabin, preparing for another day of misery. Now she was marrying a stranger who called her beautiful, despite the evidence of everyone's eyes. I do. I pronounce you man and wife. You may... That is, the marriage is complete. William turned to her then, and for a moment she thought he might kiss her. The thought terrified and thrilled her in equal measure, but instead he simply took her hand again, squeezed it gently, and said, Let's go home, Mrs. Hayes. Mrs. Hayes. She was Mrs. Hayes now. The scarred girl nobody wanted was suddenly a married woman with a new name and a new life stretching before her like an unknown road. The ride to the ranch took 2 hours through winding mountain paths and snow-covered valleys. William drove in comfortable silence, occasionally pointing out landmarks. That's Morrison Creek marks the eastern boundary of the property. Or, those peaks there, that's where the summer grazing land starts. His voice was calm, steady, giving her time to absorb this massive change without demanding conversation. Anna pulled the coat tighter still, trying to understand what had happened. This morning she'd been property to be sold. Now she was a wife sitting beside her husband, heading to a home she'd never seen. The unreality of it made her dizzy. Are you warm enough? William asked, glancing at her with concern. Yes, She lied. Her feet were numb, but she didn't want to complain. She'd learned long ago that complaints only brought trouble. William pulled the wagon to a stop. Before she could ask why he was reaching behind the seat, pulling out a thick blanket and a pair of boots. "These were my sisters," he said quietly, the first hint of his own past he'd offered. "She was about your size. They've been sitting in that box for years waiting for someone who needed them." The boots were worn but well-made, lined with fleece. Anna's frozen feet sang with relief as she pulled them on. "Your sister will—" "Elizabeth," William said, clicking to the horses to resume their journey. "She died 6 years ago. Consumption." "I'm sorry." "So am I. She would have liked you." "How could you know that?" A small smile touched William's lips. She always rooted for the survivors, the ones who'd been knocked down but got back up. She would have taken one look at you and declared you her new best friend, Scar and all. Anna touched her face self-consciously. "Most people can't stand to look at it." "Most people are fools," William said matter-of-factly. "That scar tells a story of survival. You lived through something that tried to kill you. That's strength, not shame." They crested a hill and the ranch spread out before them in the afternoon light. Anna's breath caught. She'd expected something modest, maybe run down. Instead, she saw a well-maintained 2-story house with a wraparound porch, a large barn, several outbuildings and fenced pastures where cattle grazed on hay. Someone had already spread over the snow. "It's beautiful," she whispered. "It's home," William corrected. "You're home now." As they pulled up to the house, the front door opened and an older woman emerged, followed by a young man. Both looked curious but not unfriendly. "That's Mrs. Rodriguez," William explained. "She helps with the household, and that's her son Miguel. He works with the cattle." He helped Anna down from the wagon. "Rosa Miguel, this is my wife Anna." If Mrs. Rodriguez was shocked by the sudden appearance of a wife, a scarred, bedraggled wife at that, she didn't show it. Instead, she smiled warmly and said, "Welcome, senora. Come, you must be cold and tired. I have soup on the stove and hot water ready for a bath." The kindness in her voice nearly undid Anna. When was the last time someone had offered her comfort without wanting something in return? The inside of the house was even more surprising than the outside. Clean, warm, furnished with simple but quality pieces. Not ostentatious, but comfortable. Lived in. Safe. "Your room is upstairs," William said, and Anna noticed he said your, not our. "Take your time. Rest. We can talk about everything when you're ready." "My room." William's expression was careful. "I thought you might want your own space, at least at first. This is a big change, and I don't want you to feel pressured. A marriage where the husband didn't immediately claim his rights, where she had her own room." Anna wondered if she was dreaming, if she'd actually frozen to death in that marketplace, and this was some kind of hallucination. Mrs. Rodriguez led her upstairs to a room that overlooked the valley. It had a bed with a thick quilt, a washstand, a wardrobe, and luxury of luxuries, a small fireplace already crackling with warmth. "I'll bring up hot water for a bath," Mrs. Rodriguez said, "and I'll find you something proper to wear. My daughter left some dresses when she married. You're about her size." "Why?" Anna had to ask. "Why are you being so kind? You don't even know me." Mrs. Rodriguez's dark eyes were knowing. "Mr. William is a good man," she said simply. "If he brought you here, if he married you, then you belong here. That's enough for me." She left and Anna stood in the middle of the room, her room trying to process everything. This morning she'd been nothing. Now she had a name, a home, a room of her own, and people treating her like she mattered. The bath was heaven. Anna couldn't remember the last time she'd had hot water to wash in. She scrubbed away the dirt, the blood from where the ropes had cut her wrists, the smell of the marketplace. She couldn't scrub away the scar or the memories, but for the first time in years she felt clean. The dress Mrs. Rodriguez brought was simple but well-made dark blue wool that fit reasonably well. Looking in the small mirror, Anna hardly recognized herself. She looked almost normal, except for the scar, always the scar. A knock at the door interrupted her thoughts. "Anna, it's William. May I come in?" She could have said no. He would have respected it. That knowledge gave her the courage to say yes. He entered having changed from his town clothes into work attire, cotton shirt, leather vest, worn pants. He looked more approachable this way, less like the mysterious rancher and more like a man. "How are you settling in?" "I don't understand any of this," Anna admitted. "Why did you really marry me? And don't say because I'm beautiful. We both know that's not true." William sat in the chair by the fireplace, giving her space. "Beauty isn't just about perfect faces, Anna. It's about light and darkness. It's about kindness when the world has given you every reason to be cruel. It's about strength that doesn't break others down but builds them up." "You don't know me," Anna protested. "You saw me a few times in town. That's not knowing someone." "No," William agreed. "But I know what I've seen, and I know what it's like to be alone, to want something more than just surviving day to day." He stared into the fire. "I came here 5 years ago running from my own ghosts. Built this ranch, made it successful, but success doesn't mean much when there's no one to share it with. So you wanted a wife. There are plenty of unmarried women without—" She gestured at her face. "I didn't want just any wife," William said firmly. 3 months ago, I decided maybe it was time to think about marriage. The matchmaker in Billings sent 3 ladies out here. One took one look at the ranch and declared it too remote. Another spent the entire visit talking about how she'd change everything. Tear down this rebuild that get rid of Rosa and Miguel because she didn't approve of Mexicans. The third was nice enough, but she looked at me like I was a meal ticket, not a person. He turned to look at Anna directly. Then I saw you in town helping others despite your own troubles. I watched you stand tall even when people whispered behind your back. I saw you show kindness to those who showed you none. And I thought there's someone who understands that life is about more than surface appearances. There's someone who might see past the successful rancher to the man underneath, just as I see past the scar to the woman underneath. But you bought me—" Anna said the words bitter. "Like a horse or a cow." "I bought your freedom," William corrected. "The marriage was a proposal, not a purchase. You could have said no. Could I? Where would I have gone? What would I have done?" William reached into his pocket and pulled out a small leather pouch. "This is yours," he said, setting it on the table beside her. "Enough money to get you anywhere you want to go, start any life you want to start. The marriage is legal, yes, but I'll sign any papers you want to dissolve it. You're not trapped here, Anna. You never will be." Anna stared at the pouch. Freedom. Actual freedom. He was offering her what no one ever had a real choice. "What if I stay?" "Then we take it slow," William said. "You have your room, I have mine. We share meals, get to know each other. Maybe we become friends. Maybe someday we become more. Maybe we don't. Either way, you have a home here for as long as you want it. And you expect nothing, no wifely duties?" William's expression was serious. "I expect nothing you're not willing to freely give. That's not negotiable. Rosa will tell you I'm not a saint, but I'm not a monster either. I don't take what isn't offered." Anna found herself believing him. Maybe it was the steady way he met her eyes. Maybe it was the fact that he'd given her her own room. Maybe it was the money pouch he'd placed within her reach. Or maybe she was just too tired to be suspicious anymore. "I don't know how to be a wife," she admitted. "I don't know how to be a husband," William replied with a slight smile. "Maybe we can figure it out together." A comfortable silence fell between them, the fire crackling in the hearth. Finally, William stood. "Supper's at 6. Rosa's making her famous chili. You should know she'll be deeply offended if you don't have seconds." "William?" Anna called as he reached the door. "Thank you for everything." He paused, looking back at her. "You don't need to thank me, Anna. You're not a charity case. You're my wife, and this is your home. You belong here." After he left, Anna sat for a long time staring at the fire and the money pouch. She could leave. Take the money, start over somewhere where no one knew about the scar, or her father, or the marketplace. But something held her here, not obligation, not fear, but possibility. The possibility that William was what he seemed. The possibility that she could have a real home. The possibility that she was worth more than what she'd been told her whole life. Dinner was a revelation. Anna had expected to eat in the kitchen like a servant, but William insisted she sit at the dining table. Mrs. Rodriguez served the meal with quiet efficiency, but there was warmth in her movements, especially when she ladled an extra portion onto Anna's plate with a maternal, "You're too thin, mija." Miguel joined them talking easily about the cattle and the preparations for the coming storm. "Those clouds rolling in from the north, Mr. William, looks like a big one." "We'll move the vulnerable stock to the near pasture tomorrow," William decided. "Easier to reach them if things get bad." It was so normal, so domestic, that Anna kept waiting for something to shatter the illusion, but nothing did. William included her in the conversation without forcing her to participate. Miguel treated her with easy respect, and Mrs. Rodriguez fussed over her like a mother hen. "Do you know anything about cattle?" William asked her. "No," Anna admitted. "I've always lived in town. My father worked at the mine before." She trailed off, not wanting to mention the drinking that had lost him that job. "Would you like to learn?" William offered. "Spring's the busy season, but there's always something to do on a ranch." "I'd like to be useful," Anna said carefully. "You don't have to be useful to belong here," William said firmly. "But if you want to learn, I'd be happy to teach you." After dinner, Anna helped Mrs. Rodriguez clear the table despite the older woman's protests. "You're the senora now," Rosa said. "You don't need to do this." "I want to," Anna insisted. "Please. I need to do something normal." Rosa's expression softened with understanding. "See, I know this feeling. When Mr. William first hired us, I couldn't believe we were safe. I kept waiting for the bad thing to happen, but it's been 3 years now, and the bad thing never came. Mr. William, he's not like other men." "How did you come to work here?" Rosa's face darkened slightly. "My husband, he died in a mining accident. The company threw us out of company housing the next day. Miguel and I were living in a tent outside town trying to survive. Mr. William found us, offered us work and a home. No questions, no judgment, just help when we needed it most. And he's never—" Anna couldn't finish the question, but Rosa understood. "Never," Rosa said firmly. "Not once has he been improper or cruel. He gets quiet, sometimes lost in his own thoughts, but never mean. You're safe here, mija, truly safe." That night, Anna lay in the soft bed wearing a borrowed nightgown, listening to the unfamiliar sounds of the house settling. She could hear the wind picking up outside the storm Miguel had predicted beginning to roll in. But inside she was warm, safe. For the first time in 3 years since the fire, she wasn't afraid of what tomorrow would bring. She thought about William's gray eyes, the way they'd looked at her without disgust or pity. She thought about his hands, strong but gentle, and the way he'd knelt in the snow. She thought about the money pouch still sitting on her table, proof that she could leave if she wanted. But she didn't want to leave. Not yet. Maybe not ever. The storm hit in the middle of the night, waking Anna with its fury. Wind howled around the house, snow pelting the windows with violent intensity. She pulled the quilt higher, grateful for the warmth, when she heard something else, voices urgent and worried. She crept to her door, opening it slightly. Downstairs she could hear William and Miguel talking rapidly. "Fence is down in the north pasture. If we don't get those cattle to shelter, we'll lose half the herd. In this storm, it's suicide, Mr. William. We don't have a choice. Every one of those animals represents months of work, our entire profit for the year. Get the ropes. We're going out." Anna didn't think. She grabbed the borrowed coat from the wardrobe and headed downstairs. William was pulling on heavy winter gear, his face set with determination. "What are you doing up?" he asked, surprised to see her. "I heard. You're going out in the storm." "It's ranch business. Go back to bed where it's warm." "Can I help?" William paused in pulling on his gloves. "It's dangerous, Anna. The temperature's below zero, visibility is nothing, and the cattle will be panicked." "I'm not asking to wrangle cattle," Anna said, "but there must be something. Hot coffee ready when you come back. Bandages prepared in case someone gets hurt." "Something." Rosa appeared from the kitchen, already dressed. "I'll prepare everything, Senora. You should rest." But Anna saw the worry in the older woman's eyes. Her son was going out into that deadly storm. "We'll do it together," Anna said firmly. "Many hands make light work." William studied her for a moment, then nodded. "Thank you," he said simply, then headed into the storm with Miguel. The next hours were the longest of Anna's life. She and Rosa kept coffee-hot prepared soup, laid out medical supplies they prayed wouldn't be needed. They could hear nothing over the storm's rage, could see nothing through the white wall of snow. "They'll be all right," Rosa said, but her hands shook as she stirred the soup. "Yes," Anna agreed, though her heart raced with fear she didn't fully understand. She'd known William less than a day. Why did the thought of him out in that storm terrify her so much? Finally, after what felt like days but was only 3 hours, the door burst open. William and Miguel stumbled in, covered in ice, but alive. Whole. "The cattle?" Rosa asked. "Safe," Miguel said through chattering teeth. "Every last one." Anna found herself moving without thought, helping William out of his frozen coat, pushing him toward the fire. His hands were like ice, his face raw from the wind. "You should have stayed in bed," he said, but there was warmth in his voice. "You should have waited for the storm to pass." She countered, surprising herself with her boldness. "Touché." He accepted the coffee she pressed into his hands, wrapping his fingers around the warmth. "Thank you for this. For staying up." "Rosa was worried," Anna said, deflecting. "Just Rosa?" William asked, and there was something in his eyes that made Anna's heart skip. "Drink your coffee before you freeze," she said, instead of answering. But later, after everyone had warmed up and gone to bed, Anna realized the truth. She had been worried, genuinely worried about this man she'd married only hours ago. This stranger who'd shown her more kindness in one day than she'd received in years. It was dangerous, this feeling. Hope was always dangerous for people like her. But as she lay in her warm bed listening to the storm finally beginning to calm, she couldn't help but think that maybe, just maybe, she'd found something worth hoping for. The weeks following that first storm settled into a rhythm that Anna found both comforting and unsettling. Each morning she woke in her warm bed, still half expecting to find herself back in her father's cold cabin, the marriage nothing but a cruel dream. But then she'd hear Mrs. Rodriguez humming in the kitchen below, or William's boots on the porch as he headed to the barn, and reality would wash over her with relief, so sharp it almost hurt. William kept his word about taking things slow. He never entered her room without permission, never demanded anything beyond her presence at meals. They developed a careful dance of courtesy, two people learning to exist in the same space without quite knowing what they were to each other. He'd pour her coffee before his own at breakfast, and she'd make sure his favorite chair by the fireplace had a blanket folded over its back for the cold evenings. Small gestures, but they built something between them, brick by careful brick. "You're up early again, William observed one morning, finding her in the kitchen before dawn. The pre-dawn darkness pressed against the windows like a living thing, but inside the kitchen was warm with lamplight and the smell of baking bread. "Old habits," Anna replied, not mentioning that she'd been rising before her father for years trying to get the household work done before he woke angry and hung over. "Rosa taught me her bread recipe. I wanted to practice." William moved to the stove where coffee was already perking another of her quiet contributions to the household rhythm. "It smells wonderful." He paused, then added carefully, "You know you don't have to earn your place here. This isn't conditional on how useful you are." Anna's hands stilled in kneading the dough. She'd heard those words before, but believing them was harder. "I know," she said, though they both understood she didn't, not really. "But I need to do something. Being idle makes me—" She searched for words that wouldn't reveal too much of the anxiety that still clawed at her in quiet moments. "Makes you feel vulnerable," William finished quietly. "Like if you're not constantly proving your worth, it might all disappear." She looked at him sharply, surprised by his understanding. He was leaning against the counter, coffee mug in hand, his expression thoughtful in the lamplight. "I worked myself half to death the first 2 years here," he admitted. "Sunrise to past sunset 7 days a week. Rosa finally threatened to quit if I didn't start taking Sundays off. She said I was running from something and the ranch was suffering for it because exhausted men make bad decisions." "Were you running from something?" William was quiet for a long moment, steam from his coffee rising between them like a veil. "My father wanted me to be something I couldn't be. When I refused, things got complicated. Elizabeth, my sister, she died trying to make peace between us." After that, staying wasn't an option. The pain in his voice was old but still sharp like her scar. Anna understood that kind of hurt, the type that never quite healed right. Without thinking, she reached out and touched his hand where it rested on the counter. It was the first time she'd voluntarily touched him since their wedding day. William went very still, but he didn't pull away. Instead, he slowly turned his hand palm up, giving her the choice to maintain the contact or withdraw. She left her flour-dusted fingers resting against his calloused palm, feeling the warmth of his skin, the steady pulse in his wrist. "I'm sorry about your sister," she said softly. "I'm sorry about yours," he replied, and Anna's breath caught. She hadn't told him about Mary, about the fire that had claimed her little sister while leaving Anna marked forever. "How did you know?" "You cry out for her sometimes, in your sleep." His thumb moved slightly, barely a caress against her fingers. "The first night during the storm, I was checking that the windows were secure and I heard you. You kept saying, 'Mary, where's Mary?'" Shame flooded through Anna, and she started to pull her hand back, but William gently caught her fingers. "Don't," he said. "Please, we all have nightmares. God knows I've had my share. There's no shame in grieving someone you loved." "The fire was my fault." Anna whispered the words torn from somewhere deep. "I was supposed to be watching her, but Tom Hartley had come by the mayor's son. He was handsome and charming and actually seemed interested in me before." She touched her scar with her free hand. "I was 17 and foolish. I left Mary alone to walk with him by the creek. Just for an hour, I told myself. She was 10, old enough to be safe for an hour." William's hand tightened around hers, offering silent support. "The lamp fell." Anna continued, the words flowing like blood from a wound. "Maybe Mary knocked it over, reaching for something, maybe the cat. We never knew. By the time I saw the smoke, the whole house was ablaze. I got her out, but she'd breathed too much smoke. She died 3 days later, and I lived with this." She gestured at her scarred face. "My father said it was God's justice marking me so everyone would know what I'd done." "Your father was wrong," William said firmly. "It was an accident, Anna, a terrible, tragic accident. You were 17. You were allowed to want something for yourself, to take an hour of happiness. What happened wasn't divine punishment." "Tom Hartley didn't think so," Anna said bitterly. "He took one look at my face after the fire and never spoke to me again. No one wanted to marry the scarred girl who'd let her sister die. Father had to take me back after Mother died, and he never let me forget what a burden I was." William set down his coffee and gently cupped her face with both hands, forcing her to meet his eyes. "Listen to me, Anna Hayes. You are not a burden. You were never a burden. You're a survivor who's carried guilt that wasn't yours to carry. Mary's death was a tragedy, but it wasn't your fault. And this scar," his thumb traced along the raised tissue, gentle as a whisper, "this scar means you ran into a burning building to save your sister. That's not the mark of shame. That's the mark of courage." Tears she hadn't realized were falling dripped onto his hands. No one had ever said those words to her. No one had ever suggested she was anything but guilty, marked, ruined. "You don't have to say these things," she whispered. "I'm not saying them because I have to," William replied. "I'm saying them because they're true. And because you need to hear them, as many times as it takes until you believe them." The kitchen door opened and they sprang apart as Mrs. Rodriguez entered, then stopped, clearly sensing she'd interrupted something. "I can come back," she offered. "No, it's fine," Anna said quickly, wiping her eyes. "The bread needs to go in the oven anyway." But Rosa was smiling slightly as she moved about the kitchen, and she hummed a bit louder than usual, a cheerful Mexican love song that made Anna's cheeks burn. Later that morning, as Anna helped Rosa with laundry, the older woman said casually, "Mr. William, he's different since you came." "Different how?" "Lighter, like a man who's remembered how to hope." Rosa hung a shirt with practiced efficiency. "He was so alone before, even with Miguel and me here. Worked himself to the bone, never complained, but there was an emptiness in him. Now he smiles when he thinks no one's looking, usually when he's watching you." Anna's hands fumbled with the clothespin. "He watches me. See, like a man who can't believe his good fortune." Rosa's expression grew serious. "You're good for each other, I think, both walking wounded, but maybe together you can heal." That afternoon, William found Anna in the barn where she'd taken to visiting the horses. She'd discovered an affinity for the animals, their simple needs and honest responses, a comfort after years of navigating her father's unpredictable moods. Would you like to learn to ride? He offered, watching as she stroked the nose of a gentle mare named Buttercup. Women don't ride much, Anna said uncertainly. Ranch women do, William countered. And you're a rancher's wife. Besides, Buttercup here needs the exercise, and she's gentle as a lamb, perfect for learning. It became their routine afternoon riding lessons that started in the corral and gradually expanded to short rides around the property. William was a patient teacher, never raising his voice when Anna made mistakes, always encouraging her to try again. You're a natural, Tid, he said one day as they rode side by side along the creek that bordered the southern pasture. The late winter sun was warm on their faces, and the snow was finally beginning to melt in patches, revealing the promise of spring grass beneath. I had a good teacher, Anna replied, then blushed at her own boldness. William smiled that rare full smile that transformed his serious face. Anna, can I ask you something? Of course. Are you happy here? The question caught her off guard. She considered lying, giving the easy answer, but William deserved honesty. I'm happier than I've been in years, but I keep waiting for something to go wrong, for you to realize you made a mistake, for this all to end. William guided his horse closer to hers. What if I told you I feel the same way? That every morning I wake up terrified you'll have taken that money and disappeared in the night. You're afraid I'll leave. Anna couldn't hide her shock. Why would I leave? Because you could do better than a scarred-up rancher who doesn't know how to be a proper husband, William said quietly. Because you're young and beautiful and shouldn't be tied to someone who bought you out of desperation from a man who never deserved to call himself your father. You think you're scarred? Anna almost laughed, but there was no humor in it. William, look at me. Really, look at me. I am looking, he said steadily. I see a woman who's survived hell and still has kindness in her heart. I see strength that takes my breath away. I see beauty that has nothing to do with perfect features and everything to do with the light in your eyes when you laugh with Rosa, or the gentleness in your hands when you tend the horses, or the way you hum when you think no one's listening. I don't hum, Anna protested weakly. You do. Hymns mostly. Amazing Grace when you're content. Rock of Ages when you're worried about something. His smile was tender. You've been humming Amazing Grace more lately. Anna hadn't realized he'd been paying such close attention. You notice everything. I notice you, William corrected. I can't seem to help it. The air between them shifted, charged with something Anna didn't quite know how to name. William leaned slightly toward her, then caught himself straightening in his saddle. We should head back, he said. Looks like another storm coming in. But that night at dinner, Anna made a decision. When William bid her goodnight and turned toward his room, she called out, William! He turned back, eyebrows raised in question. Would you sit with me for a while? By the fire? I'd like to hear more about Elizabeth if you're willing to share. The surprise and pleasure that crossed his face made her heart skip. I'd like that, he said simply. They sat in the parlor, Anna in the chair she'd claimed as hers, William in his, the fire crackling between them. He told her about Elizabeth, about her laugh that could fill a room, her terrible cooking that she insisted on inflicting on the family, her fierce loyalty to those she loved. Anna found herself sharing stories of Mary, the good memories she'd buried under guilt and grief. She would have loved it here, Anna said softly, watching the flames dance. All the animals, all the space to run. She always felt trapped in town. Maybe she knows you're here, William offered. Maybe she's glad you're safe and warm and... He stopped himself. And what? Loved. He finished quietly, then immediately stood. I should let you get some sleep. But Anna stood too, stepping into his path. William, wait. He stopped close enough that she could feel the warmth radiating from his body. Smell the leather and pine scent that she'd come to associate with safety. Did you mean that she asked, her voice barely a whisper. Which part? The part where you said, loved. William's hand came up slowly, giving her time to step back to refuse. When she didn't move, his fingers brushed her unscarred cheek with infinite gentleness. I've been trying not to pressure you, he said roughly. You've been through so much, and the last thing you need is me making demands. But yes, Anna, somehow, despite my best efforts to be sensible, I've fallen in love with you. Anna's breath caught. But you barely know me. I know enough, William said firmly. I know you're brave and kind and stronger than you believe. I know you make the house feel like a home. I know my heart beats faster when you enter a room and the day seems brighter when you smile. I know I want to spend every day learning more about you if you'll let me. I don't know how to be loved, Anna admitted, tears threatening. I don't know how to trust it. Then we'll learn together, William said. As slow as you need. No expectations, no demands. Just possibility. Anna looked up at him. This man who'd knelt in the snow and called her beautiful, who'd given her choices when everyone else had taken them away, who looked at her like she was precious instead of damaged. And she made another choice, maybe the bravest one yet. She rose up on her toes and pressed her lips to his. It was awkward at first, unpracticed and uncertain. But then William's arms came around her gentle but sure, and he kissed her back with a tenderness that made her knees weak. It wasn't the passionate kisses she'd read about in the few novels she'd managed to hide from her father. It was better warm and safe and full of promise. When they finally parted, both breathing unsteadily, William rested his forehead against hers. Anna, he said her name a prayer on his lips. I think, she said shakily, I might be falling in love with you too. His smile was radiant. That's enough, he said. That's everything. But their growing happiness was about to be tested. 3 days later, a rider appeared on the horizon, and Anna's blood turned to ice when she recognized the horse. It was her father's drinking companion, Jack Morrison, and his presence here could only mean trouble. William was out with the herd checking on new calves with Miguel. Anna stood on the porch, Rosa beside her as Morrison dismounted. Well, well, he drawled, his eyes traveling over Anna with a leer that made her skin crawl. Look at you all dressed up like a proper lady. Your daddy sent me to check on his investment. I'm not an investment, Anna said, proud when her voice didn't shake. I'm William Hayes' wife. You need to leave. Now that's not very hospitable, Morrison said, climbing the porch steps despite Anna's backward step. Tom said I should make sure Hayes was treating you right. Said if he wasn't, maybe we could come to a different arrangement. There is no arrangement to be made, Anna said firmly. My father sold his rights. He has no claim here. Morrison's hand shot out, grabbing her wrist before she could react. Tom seems to think different. Says Hayes tricked him, didn't pay full price. Says you're still his property until the debt's settled. Let go of her. Rosa's voice was deadly calm. When Morrison turned, he found himself looking down the barrel of a shotgun the older woman had produced from somewhere. You let go of the senora and get off this land, or I'll blow a hole in you big enough to drive a wagon through. Morrison released Anna's wrist, but his smile was ugly. Mexicans got some spine. But this ain't over. Tom's got legal claim, he says. He's talking to the sheriff, gonna get papers drawn up. That marriage ain't valid if the bride was sold under false pretenses. The marriage is valid, Anna said, rubbing her wrist. Reverend Phillips performed it. It's recorded in the church records. Records can be lost, Morrison said meaningfully. Reverend might remember things different if asked the right way. Tom's got friends, girl. Important friends who don't like seeing a man cheated in a business deal. The sound of approaching horses interrupted whatever threat Morrison was about to make. William and Miguel appeared riding fast, having obviously seen the strange horse from the pasture. William took one look at Anna's pale face and Rosa's shotgun, and his expression went dangerously cold. Morrison, he said, dismounting with deliberate calm. You're on my land uninvited. That's trespassing. Just delivering a message from Tom Carter, Morrison said, but he stepped back from William's approach. Everyone in the territory knew William Hayes was slow to anger, but formidable when roused. He wants to renegotiate the terms of your purchase. William's fist connected with Morrison's jaw before anyone saw him move. Morrison went down hard, blood spurting from his nose. There's nothing to renegotiate, William said calmly, standing over the fallen man. I paid Tom Carter more than he asked. The deal is done. Anna is my wife, legal and binding. If Carter has a problem with that, he can take it up with me directly. But if any of you come near my wife again, if you so much as look at her wrong in town, I'll kill you. That's not a threat, Morrison. That's a promise. Morrison scrambled to his feet, backing toward his horse. You'll regret this, Hayes. Tom's got connections. He can make life real hard for you here. He can try, William said flatly. Now get off my land before I forget my Christian charity and shoot you where you stand. Morrison rode off, but they all knew this wasn't over. Tom Carter was like a bad penny. He always turned up when you least wanted him. That night, William checked every window and door, loaded extra rifles, and positioned them strategically around the house. Anna watched him from the doorway of the parlor. You're expecting trouble, she said. Maybe. Tom's mean when he's sober and meaner when he's drunk. If Morrison's got him riled up about money, William shrugged. Better to be prepared. This is my fault, Anna said miserably. I've brought danger to your home. William crossed to her in 2 strides, pulling her into his arms. It was the first time he'd held her like this, and Anna melted against him, feeling the solid strength of his chest, the safety of his embrace. This is not your fault, he said firmly. Tom Carter is a rabid dog who needs to be put down. I should have done it that day in the marketplace, but I thought paying him off would be enough. I was wrong. What if he does have legal grounds? What if... Anna. William pulled back enough to look at her face. Even if he could dissolve our marriage, which he can't do, you think I'd let him take you? You're mine now. Not in the way he means, not as property, but as my wife, my partner, my love. I'll fight anyone who tries to change that. I'm not worth fighting for. Anna said, old wounds speaking. You're worth everything, William countered, and I'll prove that to you every day until you believe it. He kissed her, then different from their first kiss. This one was possessive, protective, a claim and a promise all at once. Anna clung to him, drawing strength from his certainty. But even as they held each other, she could feel the storm approaching. Tom Carter wouldn't give up easily, not when his pride was involved. And pride was all her father had left. The next few days passed in tense quiet. William didn't ride out to the far pastures, staying close to the house. Miguel kept watch from the barn. Rosa moved through her chores with the shotgun always within reach, and Anna found herself jumping at every sound, every shadow that moved across the windows. It was almost a relief when Tom finally came. He arrived at dusk 5 days after Morrison's visit, and he wasn't alone. 6 men rode with him, all armed, all with the look of hired thugs rather than ranch hands. Anna watched from the upstairs window as William stepped out to meet them, apparently alone and unarmed. Hayes, Tom shouted, weaving slightly in his saddle. He'd been drinking, but not enough to make him sloppy, just enough to make him dangerous. We need to talk about our deal. There's nothing to talk about, Carter. You sold your daughter, I paid your price, more than your price. We're done. See, that's where you're wrong, Tom said, dismounting unsteadily. I've been thinking about it, and $20 was for a regular wife, but you went and married her all legal-like. That makes her respectable. Respectable costs more. How much? William asked, his voice deadly calm. Tom grinned, showing yellowed teeth. $500. Anna gasped. That was more money than most people saw in a lifetime. It was extortion, pure and simple. And if I refuse? Well then, Tom said, his hand moving to his gun. I guess we'll have to take back my property. Might be she gets damaged in the taking, but damaged goods are better than no goods at all. I've got a counteroffer, William said. From her vantage point, Anna saw Miguel emerge from the barn with a rifle. Rosa appeared on the side porch with her shotgun, and from various positions around the property, she saw more men ranch hands from neighboring spreads, all armed, all aiming at Tom and his thugs. You leave now, William continued, and you live. You come back, you threaten my wife again, you so much as think about causing trouble for us, and I'll hunt you down like the dog you are. That's not a negotiation, Carter. That's your only option. Tom's face went purple with rage. You can't threaten me. I've got rights. She's my blood. She's my wife, William said simply. And these good men here all witnessed our legal marriage. They also witnessed you trying to sell her like cattle in the marketplace. What do you think the territorial judge will say about that, Tom? What do you think he'll say about a father who beat his daughter, who tried to sell her, who's now attempting extortion? For the first time, uncertainty flickered across Tom's face. He'd expected William to be alone, vulnerable. He hadn't expected the entire community to stand with him. This ain't over, Tom snarled, but he was already backing toward his horse. Yes, it is, William said firmly. Because if I see you again, if you come near Anna again, I won't bother with threats. I'll just shoot you and let God sort it out." Tom and his men rode off, but Anna could see it in her father's eyes. He wasn't done. His pride was wounded, and a wounded Tom Carter was dangerous as a rattlesnake. That night Anna couldn't sleep. She paced her room, her mind racing with terrible possibilities. Finally, she pulled on her wrapper and crept downstairs, hoping some warm milk might calm her nerves. She found William in the kitchen, sitting at the table with a cup of coffee and a rifle across his lap. "Couldn't sleep either?" he asked. "I keep thinking about what he might do." Anna admitted, pouring herself some milk and heating it on the stove. "He's not rational when he's like this. When his pride's hurt, he'll do something terrible just to prove he can." "Let him try," William said grimly. "I've got men watching the roads. The neighbors are alerted. He won't catch us off guard." Anna sat across from him, studying his face in the lamplight. "Why are they helping the neighbors, I mean? I'm nobody to them." "You're my wife," William said simply. "And out here we protect our own. Besides, everyone knows Tom Carter for what he is. They've been waiting for an excuse to run him off for years. What if someone gets hurt because of me?" William reached across the table and took her hand. "People get hurt because of evil men like Tom Carter, not because of good women like you. Stop taking responsibility for his sins, Anna." She squeezed his hand, drawing comfort from his strength. "I'm scared," she admitted. "Not just of him, of losing this, of losing you." "You won't lose me," William promised. "No matter what happens, we face it together." But even as he said the words, Anna could feel the darkness gathering. Tom Carter had taken everything from her once before. She couldn't bear the thought of him destroying this new happiness she'd found. "William," she said suddenly, "there's something I need to tell you, about Tom, about what he's capable of." William's expression grew serious. "Tell me." "The fire that killed Mary, that scarred me. It wasn't an accident." The words came out in a rush, a secret she'd never told anyone. Tom was drunk, angry about money he'd lost gambling. He and Mother were fighting. He knocked over the lamp in his rage, then left too drunk to realize what he'd done. Mother tried to put it out, but it spread too fast. She got me out, went back for Mary, but the smoke... Mother never recovered from the smoke. She died 2 years later, her lungs ruined. William's face had gone pale. "He killed them. Killed your mother and sister. And he's never shown an ounce of remorse," Anna said bitterly. "He blamed me for not saving Mary, blamed Mother for dying and leaving him with me to care for. He's a monster, William, and monsters don't give up." William stood, pulling Anna to her feet and into his arms. "Then we'll be ready for him," he said against her hair. "Whatever he tries, we'll be ready." The uneasy peace lasted exactly 9 days. Anna had begun to hope, foolishly perhaps, that her father had finally accepted defeat. She should have known better. Tom Carter's pride was a poisonous thing, and wounded pride demanded vengeance. She was in the henhouse gathering eggs when she heard the thunder of approaching horses. Not from the main road where William had posted watchers, but from the east through the canyon that everyone said was too treacherous to navigate on horseback. Everyone had been wrong. Anna dropped the basket eggs, shattering on the frozen ground as she ran for the house. "William!" she screamed, but he was in the far pasture with Miguel, checking on a sick calf. Rosa emerged from the kitchen, flour still dusting her hands just as 8 riders crested the hill. Tom Carter led them, his face twisted with drunken rage, and something else, something that made Anna's blood run cold. Triumph. He looked triumphant. "Get inside!" Rosa hissed, reaching for the shotgun they kept by the door. "I'll hold them off." "They'll kill you," Anna protested, but Rosa was already pushing her toward the stairs. "Better me than you, mija. Go to your room, bar the door. Mr. William will come." But Anna couldn't hide while Rosa faced danger alone. Instead, she ran to William's room where she knew he kept a loaded pistol in the drawer beside his bed. Her hand shook as she grabbed it, the weight unfamiliar but somehow reassuring. The front door crashed open before she could get back downstairs. She heard Rosa's cry of pain, then Tom's voice, slurred but vicious. "Where is she? Where's my ungrateful bitch of a daughter?" "She's not here," Rosa said, and Anna heard the sound of flesh hitting flesh, heard Rosa fall. Rage flooded through Anna, hot and pure. This man had taken everything from her, her mother, her sister, her childhood, her dignity. He would not take Rosa too. She descended the stairs slowly, the pistol hidden in the folds of her skirt. Tom stood in the parlor, his men spreading through the house like locusts. Rosa was on the floor, blood trickling from her mouth, but her eyes were alert, warning Anna to run. "There you are," Tom said, his yellowed smile making Anna's stomach turn. "My beautiful daughter, look at you playing house like you're some respectable woman instead of damaged goods I couldn't even give away." "I'm not your daughter," Anna said quietly. "You lost that right when you tried to sell me." Tom's face darkened. "I made you. I own you. And now I'm taking you back." "Why?" Anna asked, genuinely curious despite her terror. "You have the money William gave you, more than you asked for. Why can't you just leave us alone?" "Because," Tom said, moving closer, his breath reeking of whiskey, "nobody makes a fool of Tom Carter. Hayes humiliated me in front of the whole town. Now I'm going to humiliate him. Going to take his pretty wife and sell her to the highest bidder. Got some men down in Mexico who pay good money for women, especially ones already broken in." The implications of his words made Anna's skin crawl. "William will kill you for this." "William's not here," Tom said, reaching for her. "And by the time he gets back, you'll be long gone." Anna pulled the trigger. The sound was deafening in the enclosed space. Tom screamed, clutching his shoulder where the bullet had torn through flesh and muscle. His men raised their guns, but Anna kept the pistol trained on her father's head. "The next one goes between your eyes, she said, surprised by how steady her voice sounded. "I've already killed my mother and sister, according to you. What's one more death on my conscience?" It was a lie. The weight of the gun shook in her hands, and the sight of blood, even Tom's blood, made her stomach heave. But they didn't know that. "You little bitch!" Tom gasped, his shirt rapidly darkening with blood. "You shot me. My own daughter shot me." "I'm not your daughter," Anna repeated. "I'm William Hayes' wife. And if you don't leave now, if you ever come back, I'll finish what I started." The sound of horses approaching at full gallop made everyone freeze. William's voice carried on the wind, calling Anna's name with desperate fear. He burst through the door. Seconds later, Miguel and 3 other ranchers behind him, all armed. William took in the scene, Rosa on the floor. Tom bleeding, Anna holding a smoking pistol, and his expression went lethal. He crossed to Anna in 2 strides, gently taking the gun from her trembling hands. "Are you hurt?" he asked softly. "No," Anna managed. "But Rosa—" "I'm all right, mija," Rosa said, accepting Miguel's help to stand. "Just a split lip. I've had worse." William turned to Tom then, and Anna had never seen such cold fury in anyone's eyes. "You're bleeding on my carpet," he said conversationally. "Get out." "She shot me," Tom protested. "My own daughter." William's fist connected with Tom's jaw, dropping him to his knees. "She's not your daughter. She's my wife. And she showed more mercy than I would have. She aimed for your shoulder. I would have aimed for your heart." He hauled Tom to his feet by his collar. "This is the last time I'll say this, Carter. Leave. Don't come back. Don't send messages. Don't even think about her. Because if you do, if you give me any excuse at all, I'll kill you. And unlike Anna, I won't lose a minute of sleep over it." Tom's men helped him onto his horse, his shoulder still bleeding freely. As they prepared to ride off, Tom turned back, his face twisted with pain and hatred. "This isn't over," he snarled. "I've got friends. Important friends. You can't just shoot a man and get away with it. She was defending herself and our home from armed intruders," Sheriff Morrison said, riding up with another group of men. Anna hadn't even noticed his arrival in the chaos. 8 men against 2 women. Any court in the territory would call it self-defense. In fact, Tom, you're lucky I don't arrest you right now for attempted kidnapping. The sheriff's unexpected support seemed to finally penetrate Tom's whiskey-soaked brain. He was outnumbered, outgunned, and now the law was against him too. "You'll regret this," he said to Anna, his eyes promising vengeance. "You'll all regret this." They watched him ride away, his men supporting him in the saddle as blood continued to seep through his fingers. Anna knew she should feel something, guilt perhaps, or fear of retribution, but all she felt was tired, so deeply tired. "Come," William said gently, leading her to a chair. "You're in shock." "I shot him," Anna said numbly. "I shot my own father." You defended yourself, William corrected firmly. You defended Rosa, our home. You did what you had to do. What if he dies? Then the world will be a better place, Rosa said bluntly, holding a cold cloth to her swollen lip. That man is evil, mija. You did nothing wrong. Sheriff Morrison crouched beside Anna's chair. I need to ask you some questions, Mrs. Hayes, for the official record. Anna told him everything: Tom's arrival, his threats, his plan to sell her in Mexico. The sheriff's face grew darker with each detail. I'll put out word to all the neighboring towns, he said when she finished. Tom Carter is no longer welcome in this part of Montana. If he shows his face again, he'll be arrested on sight. After the sheriff and the other ranchers left after Rosa had been tended to and sent to rest despite her protests, William and Anna were finally alone. She stood at the window watching the sun set over the mountains, painting the sky the color of blood. I've never shot anyone before, she said quietly. William came to stand behind her, his hands settling gently on her shoulders. I know. I didn't even think. I just saw him hit Rosa, heard him talk about selling me, and I wanted him to stop. I wanted him to stop hurting people. You were brave, William said, turning her to face him. Braver than any woman should have to be. I don't feel brave. I feel... She searched for words. Empty. Like I finally cut the last tie to who I used to be, but I don't know who I am now. William cupped her face in his hands, his thumbs gentle against her cheeks. You're Anna Hayes. You're my wife. You're the woman who stood up to a monster and won. You're free. Am I? Anna asked. Or will I always be looking over my shoulder waiting for him to come back? We'll be vigilant, William promised, but we won't live in fear. He doesn't get to have that power over us. That night, Anna couldn't bear to be alone. When William turned toward his room after ensuring every door and window was locked, she caught his hand. Stay with me, she whispered. Please, I can't be alone tonight. William's eyes searched hers. Anna, you're vulnerable right now. I don't want to take advantage. You're not, she interrupted. I'm asking. I need to feel safe. I need to feel alive. I need you. He followed her to her room, and when she turned to him trembling with emotion and exhaustion, he simply held her. They lay fully clothed on top of the quilt, Anna curled against William's chest, his arms strong and safe around her. I love you, she whispered into the darkness. I love you too, he replied, pressing a kiss to her forehead. More than I thought possible. They fell asleep like that, holding each other against the darkness that threatened from outside. And for the first time since childhood, Anna slept without nightmares. Spring came early that year, melting the snow and bringing green to the valley with unusual swiftness. Anna threw herself into learning the ranch operations, finding peace in the routine of caring for animals and tending the garden Rosa helped her plant. Her relationship with William deepened with each passing day, though they maintained separate rooms by unspoken agreement, both understanding that some wounds needed more time to heal. It was on a particularly beautiful May morning that everything changed again. Anna was working in the garden, her hands deep in the rich soil, when she heard a horse approaching. William was in town with Miguel getting supplies, and Rosa was doing laundry. Anna straightened, shading her eyes against the sun, and her heart dropped. It wasn't Tom but Jack Morrison, and he wasn't alone. A well-dressed man rode beside him, someone Anna didn't recognize, but who carried himself with the authority of money and power. Mrs. Hayes, the stranger said, tipping his hat with mock courtesy. Allow me to introduce myself, Randall Blackwood, attorney at law. I represent your father in a legal matter. My father has no legal matters with me, Anna said, proud when her voice remained steady. I'm afraid that's where you're wrong, Blackwood said, producing a document from his coat. This is a legal petition challenging the validity of your marriage to William Hayes. Your father contends that you were coerced into the union while in a state of mental distress, rendering the marriage invalid. Anna's hands clenched in her apron. That's a lie. Perhaps. But it will need to be proven in court. Your father has also filed charges against you for assault with intent to kill. He nearly died from that gunshot wound, lost the use of his arm. It was self-defense, Anna protested. The sheriff said, "The sheriff isn't a judge," Blackwood interrupted smoothly. "And your father has witnesses who say you shot him unprovoked in cold blood. 6 men who will swear to it in court. The 6 men who'd ridden with Tom that day. Of course they'd lie for him." Anna felt the walls closing in the freedom she'd found slipping away. "What does he want?" she asked wearily. Blackwood smiled a cold expression that never reached his eyes. "He's willing to drop all charges and challenges if you return with us now, voluntarily. Sign a statement that the marriage was performed under duress and agree to have it annulled. And then what he sells me to those men in Mexico he mentioned." "I wouldn't know anything about that," Blackwood said blandly. "I'm simply here to offer you a choice. Come willingly or be dragged through a very public, very messy trial that will destroy your husband's reputation and likely result in your imprisonment for attempted murder." Anna's mind raced. Tom had found a new angle using the law as a weapon where violence had failed. And this Blackwood clearly knew his business had probably been paid well to make this threat seem legitimate. "I need time to discuss this with my husband," she said. "You have until tomorrow noon," Blackwood said. "We'll be staying in town. If you haven't appeared by then, I'll file the papers with the territorial court." They rode away, leaving Anna standing in her garden, the spring sunshine suddenly feeling cold as winter. When William returned an hour later, he found her sitting on the porch, still in her gardening apron, staring at nothing. One look at her face, and he was off his horse and beside her. "What happened? Are you hurt?" She told him about Blackwood, about the threats, about the choice she'd been given. William's face darkened with each word. "He can't do this," William said when she finished. "The marriage is legal. The shooting was self-defense. We have witnesses too." "But a trial, William. Think what that would mean. Our private business aired for everyone to judge. The ranch's reputation damaged. And if Tom's bought this lawyer, who else might he buy? A judge, a jury?" William pulled her against him. "We'll fight this. I'll hire the best lawyer in the territory. Hell, I'll hire 10 lawyers if that's what it takes." "Or I could just go," Anna said quietly. William went rigid. "What? If I go with them, if I agree to the annulment, this all ends. You're free of the scandal. The ranch is safe. Stop." William gripped her shoulders, forcing her to look at him. "Don't you dare. Don't you dare give up on us now." "I'm trying to protect you," Anna protested. "And I'm trying to protect you," William shot back. "That's what married people do. They protect each other. They fight for each other. They don't give up when things get hard." "This is different." "No, it's not. It's exactly the same. Tom Carter is a bully who's trying to break you, break us. If we give in now, he wins. And I'll be damned if I let that happen." William stood pacing the porch with restless energy. "I need to think. There has to be a way to end this once and for all." "Short of killing him, I don't see how," Anna said bitterly. William stopped pacing, his expression thoughtful. "Maybe not killing him, but there might be another way." He turned to Anna. "You said Tom worked at the mine before he started drinking heavily. Do you remember which one?" "The Copper Crown, but that was years ago." "Stay here," William said, already heading for his horse. "Lock the doors. Rosa has the shotgun. I'll be back before dark." "William, what are you planning?" He kissed her quickly, fiercely. "Trust me. And whatever you do, don't go with them. Promise me." "I promise," Anna said, though dread sat heavy in her stomach. William rode off at a gallop, leaving Anna to wait and worry. Rosa, having heard the commotion, came to sit with her, the shotgun across her lap. "He'll fix this," Rosa said confidently. "Mr. William, he's smart. Smarter than that bastard Tom Carter." "I hope you're right," Anna said, "because I don't know how much more of this I can take." As the sun began to set, painting the sky in shades of orange and red, Anna heard horses approaching. Multiple horses. She and Rosa moved inside Rosa, checking the load on the shotgun. But it was William who appeared, and he wasn't alone. Sheriff Morrison rode with him along with another man Anna didn't recognize, older, well-dressed, with the bearing of someone important. "Anna," William said, his eyes bright with something that might have been hope. "This is Judge Harrison from Helena. He's agreed to help us." Judge Harrison tipped his hat. "Mrs. Hayes, I understand you're having some trouble with your father." "You could say that," Anna said carefully. Well, I might have a solution. May we come in? They gathered in the parlor, Anna serving coffee, with hands that trembled slightly. Judge Harrison pulled out a thick folder and set it on the table. Your husband came to me with an interesting story, the judge began. About Tom Carter, about his threats about this lawyer he's hired. But he also told me something else. Something about the Copper Crown mine. Anna looked at William in confusion. What about it? I did some investigating after you mentioned it, William said. Talked to some old-timers in town, checked some records. Tom didn't just work at the Copper Crown. He was a shift supervisor. And there was an incident about 10 years ago, a collapse that killed 3 men. Anna's breath caught. She remembered that collapse, remembered her father coming home shaking, reeking of whiskey even more than usual. The official report blamed faulty equipment, Judge Harrison continued. But I found witnesses who tell a different story. They say Tom Carter was drunk on shift, that he ignored safety protocols, ordered men into an unstable shaft despite warnings. Then when it collapsed, he bribed and threatened witnesses to change their stories. 3 men died because of his negligence, William added. 3 men with families, families who never got justice because Tom covered it up. That's terrible, Anna said, but what does it have to do with... One of those men was James Morrison, the judge said. Sheriff Morrison's brother. Anna's eyes widened, understanding beginning to dawn. I've been waiting 10 years for proof of what really happened, Sheriff Morrison said, his voice tight with controlled emotion. Now, thanks to your husband's investigation, I have it. Witnesses who are finally willing to talk. Documents Tom thought were destroyed. So here's the situation, Judge Harrison said. I can offer Tom Carter a choice. He can face charges for negligent homicide, bribery, and obstruction of justice charges that will certainly result in a lengthy prison sentence, possibly hanging. Or he can sign this document relinquishing all claims to you, agreeing to leave the territory permanently and never contact you again. You're blackmailing him, Anna said slowly. I prefer to think of it as offering him the same kind of choice he offered you, William said. Leave and live or stay and face justice. But those families, Anna said, don't they deserve justice for what he did? They deserve peace, Sheriff Morrison said. And they'll have it knowing Tom Carter can never hurt anyone again. If he agrees to exile, I've arranged for most of his remaining assets to be distributed to the widows as compensation. It's not perfect justice, but it's something. Anna stared at the documents at these men who'd conspired to save her. When put so much tomorrow morning, Judge Harrison said, I'll meet with Carter and his lawyer at 10. By noon, this will all be over one way or another. What if he refuses? Anna asked. Then I'll arrest him for murder, Sheriff Morrison said simply. And I'll make sure everyone in the territory knows exactly what kind of man Tom Carter really is. That night, Anna couldn't sleep. She paced her room, her mind churning with possibilities. What if Tom called their bluff? What if he chose prison over exile just to spite them? What if... A soft knock interrupted her spiraling thoughts. Anna? May I come in? She opened the door to find William also fully dressed, also clearly unable to sleep. I keep thinking about tomorrow, she admitted. It's going to work, William said with more confidence than she felt. Tom's a coward at heart. Faced with real consequences, he'll run. How did you think to investigate the mine? William pulled her to sit beside him on the small sofa by the fireplace. You mentioned he lost his job there because of drinking, but a shift supervisor position wasn't easy to lose back then, not unless something serious happened. So I asked questions, and the answers led to more questions until finally old Pete Hawkins told me the truth about that night. You did all this for me. I'd do anything for you, William said simply. That's what love means. Anna leaned against him, drawing comfort from his solid presence. I never thought I'd have this. Love. Someone willing to fight for me. You have it, William assured her. For as long as you want it. Forever, Anna said softly. I want it forever. William turned to her, then his eyes intense in the firelight. Then marry me again. After this is over, after Tom is gone. Marry me properly in a church full of people wearing a white dress with flowers and music and everything you deserve. Make it clear to everyone that you're choosing me of your own free will. Yes, Anna said, tears pricking her eyes. Yes, I'll marry you again. He kissed her, then soft and sweet, full of promise. When they finally parted, Anna made a decision. Stay, she said. Tonight stay with me. Not just to hold me, but stay. William searched her eyes. Are you sure? I've never been more sure of anything, Anna said. I want to be your wife in every way. I want to stop letting fear in the past control me. I want to choose love. That night in the soft light of the dying fire, Anna discovered what it meant to be loved completely gently, with a tenderness that erased years of harsh words and cruel treatment. William worshipped her with his hands and mouth, treating her scarred body as something precious, something beautiful. And when they came together at last, Anna understood that this was what she'd been missing, not just physical intimacy, but the soul-deep connection of two people choosing each other completely. Afterward, as they lay entwined, Anna traced patterns on William's chest. I love you. She said the words easier now, more natural. I love you too, he replied, pressing a kiss to her forehead. No matter what happens tomorrow, remember that. You're loved, you're valued, you're home. Morning came too quickly. Anna dressed carefully in her best dress, the blue one that brought out her eyes, William said. She wanted to look strong, confident, even if she felt neither. The meeting was held at the sheriff's office. Anna waited outside with William, Rosa, and Miguel, while inside Judge Harrison presented Tom with his choices. They could hear raised voices, Tom's loudest of all, cursing and threatening. Then sudden silence. The door opened, and Blackwood emerged, his face professionally blank. My client has agreed to your terms, he said stiffly. He'll sign the documents and leave the territory within 24 hours. Relief flooded through Anna so intensely, her knees nearly buckled. William's arm around her waist kept her standing. Tom emerged next, looking older, smaller somehow. His left arm hung useless at his side, the shoulder Anna had shot clearly never healing properly. When he saw her, his face twisted with such hatred that William stepped protectively in front of her. You think you've won, Tom spat. You think you're safe, but you're still nothing, still that scarred, worthless girl nobody wanted. You're wrong, Anna said, stepping around William to face her father one last time. I'm Anna Hayes. I'm a rancher's wife. I'm loved. I'm free. And you're nothing to me. Nothing at all. Tom raised his good hand as if to strike her, but Sheriff Morrison grabbed his wrist. Time to go, Carter. You've got packing to do. As they watched Tom being escorted away, Judge Harrison approached. The documents are filed. Your marriage is legally reaffirmed and Tom Carter has no claim on you whatsoever. You're free, Mrs. Hayes. Thank you, Anna said, then impulsively hugged the surprised judge. Thank you so much. Thank your husband, Harrison said with a slight smile. He's the one who wouldn't give up, turned over every stone until he found what we needed. You've got yourself a good man there. I know, Anna said, looking at William with all the love she felt. I know. That afternoon, as they rode back to the ranch, Anna felt lighter than she had in years. The weight of Tom Carter's shadow had finally lifted. She was free, truly free. So, William said as they crested the hill overlooking their valley. About that second wedding. How does next month sound? Sorry, perfect, Anna said. Everything's perfect. But there was one more thing she needed to do. That evening, she stood before the mirror in her room, really looking at herself for the first time in years. The scar was still there, would always be there. But it no longer defined her. She was more than her scars, more than her past. The month that followed Tom Carter's departure felt like emerging from a long, dark tunnel into sunlight. Anna threw herself into wedding preparations with an enthusiasm that surprised even her. Rosa helped her alter a dress that had belonged to William's mother, carefully preserved in tissue paper in the attic. It was ivory silk, yellowed slightly with age, but still beautiful with delicate lace at the collar and cuffs. You look like an angel, Rosa said, tears in her eyes as Anna tried it on for the final fitting. Angels don't have scars, Anna said, though she smiled as she said it, the words lacking their old bitterness. The best ones do, Rosa countered firmly. How else would we know they fought for heaven? The entire valley seemed to embrace their upcoming ceremony. Women Anna barely knew arrived with offerings of food for the reception fabric for decorations, wildflowers from their gardens. It was as if the community, having witnessed her struggle, wanted to celebrate her triumph. But 3 days before the wedding, everything nearly fell apart again. Anna was in town with Rosa, picking up the last supplies when she saw him. Not Tom, but someone worse in a way, Tom Hartley, the mayor's son, the boy she'd been walking with when the fire started. He was older now, married to the banker's daughter, prosperous and respectable. And he was staring at her from across the street with an expression of such disgust that Anna felt 17 again, newly scarred and drowning in guilt. "Anna Carter," he called out, crossing toward her. "Or should I say, Anna Hayes, I heard about your marriage. Bought and sold like livestock, wasn't it?" Rosa bristled beside her, but Anna put a restraining hand on the older woman's arm. "Tom," she said quietly, "it's been a long time." "Not long enough," he said, his handsome face twisted with old anger. "You know I lost standing in this town because of you. People whispered that I was courting the girl who killed her sister. My father nearly lost the election because of the association. Mary's death was an accident." Anna said the words coming easier now, after months of William's gentle insistence. "Was it? Or were you so desperate for attention that you neglected her? So pathetic for any man's notice that you let a child burn?" His voice carried drawing stares from passers-by. "And now you've trapped another man, haven't you? Does Hayes know what he's really married to? A killer, a monster hiding behind a scarred face?" The words hit like physical blows, each one finding its mark in the soft places Anna had only just begun to heal. She opened her mouth to respond, but no words came. What could she say? How could she defend herself against such venom? "That's enough!" William's voice came from behind her, cold as winter iron. She hadn't heard him approach, but suddenly he was there, solid and protective at her side. "Hartley, you always were a coward, but I didn't think even you would stoop to attacking women in the street." Tom Hartley's face reddened. "I'm simply stating facts, Hayes. She killed that child through negligence." William's fist connected with Hartley's jaw before he could finish, sending the younger man sprawling in the dusty street. "That's for insulting my wife," William said calmly. He hauled Hartley to his feet, only to knock him down again. "That's for being a coward who abandoned a 17-year-old girl when she needed support most." He grabbed Hartley's collar, pulling him up once more. "And if you ever speak to or about my wife again, the third blow will be permanent. Understood?" Hartley sputtered, blood streaming from his nose. "You can't just— My father is the mayor." "Your father is a businessman who needs the lumber from my contracts," William said flatly. "Ask him what's more important, his son's wounded pride or his town's economy. I think you'll find the answer educational." A crowd had gathered, including Sheriff Morrison, who made no move to intervene. If anything, he seemed to be enjoying the spectacle of Tom Hartley, finally getting what he deserved. "You all right, Mrs. Hayes?" the sheriff asked pointedly, ignoring Hartley's demands for arrest. "Yes." Anna managed, though she was shaking. "Yes, I'm fine." "Good. Seems like Mr. Hartley here tripped and fell, repeatedly. Clumsy of him." The sheriff tipped his hat. "Best get that nose looked at, Tom. Looks broken to me." As Hartley stumbled away, humiliated and bloodied, William turned to Anna. His knuckles were split, blood seeping through, but his eyes were concerned only for her. "Are you truly all right?" he asked softly. "You didn't have to do that," Anna said, tears threatening. "Violence doesn't solve—" "Sometimes it does," William interrupted gently. "Sometimes men like Hartley only understand one language. And sometimes a husband needs to defend his wife's honor, even if she's strong enough to defend herself. What if he makes trouble? His father won't do a thing," William assured her. "Hartley Sr. owes me too much money and depends on my lumber contracts too heavily. Besides, everyone here saw his son harassing you. Public sympathy is entirely on our side." That evening, Anna tended to William's damaged hands, carefully cleaning and wrapping his knuckles. "You could have broken your hand," she scolded gently. "Worth it," William said, watching her work. The look on his face when he hit the ground— worth any pain. "My violent protector." Anna said with a small smile, though her heart was full of something deeper than gratitude. No one had ever fought for her before. No one had ever thought she was worth defending. Always, William said seriously, I will always protect you, Anna, from Tom Hartley, from your father, from anyone who tries to hurt you. That's my promise as your husband. I don't deserve... William silenced her with a kiss, gentle but insistent. You deserve everything, he said against her lips. Everything good and beautiful and safe, and I'm going to spend the rest of my life making sure you have it. The wedding day dawned clear and perfect, one of those rare Montana mornings where the sky seemed endless and the mountains stood sharp against the horizon like promises of eternity. Anna stood in her room, soon to be their room, she thought, with a flutter of anticipation, while Rosa and Mrs. Morrison, the sheriff's wife, helped her dress. You're shaking, Mrs. Morrison observed, steadying Anna's hand as she tried to button the tiny pearl buttons at her wrist. I'm nervous, Anna admitted. Not about William, just everyone will be watching. What if they're all thinking about what Tom Hartley said? What if they're wondering why William chose someone so damaged? Stop that, Rosa said firmly, turning Anna to face the mirror. Look at yourself, really look. Anna looked. The ivory dress fit perfectly, flowing over her curves in elegant lines. Rosa had woven wildflowers into her hair, now grown long enough to pin up properly. And her face, yes, the scar was there, prominent as always, but somehow it didn't dominate anymore. Her eyes were bright with happiness, her cheeks flushed with anticipation. She looked like a bride, like a woman in love. You're beautiful, Mrs. Morrison said simply. And anyone who can't see that is blind. The church was full when Anna arrived. It seemed the entire valley had come to witness this second ceremony, this public declaration of choice. As she stood at the entrance, her bouquet of wildflowers trembling in her hands, she saw the sea of faces turn toward her. Some she knew, others were strangers, but all seemed united in their support. The music began, Rosa's nephew playing a violin with surprising skill, and Anna began the long walk down the aisle. She kept her eyes fixed on William, drawing strength from his steady gaze. He stood at the altar in his best suit, looking handsome and solid and hers. When she reached him, he took her hands and she felt her trembling stop. You came, he said softly for her ears alone. Did you doubt I would? Never. But I'm grateful anyway. Reverend Phillips performed the ceremony with considerably more enthusiasm than he had the first time. When he reached the vows, his voice rang out clear and strong. Do you, William, take Anna to be your lawfully wedded wife, to have and to hold in sickness and in health, for richer or poorer, for better or worse, as long as you both shall live? I do, William said, his voice carrying to every corner of the church. I did before, I do now, and I will forever. And do you, Anna, take William to be your lawfully wedded husband, to have and to hold in sickness and in health, for richer or poorer, for better or worse, as long as you both shall live? Anna looked at William, this man who had saved her in every way a person could be saved, and spoke the truest words she'd ever said. I do. With all my heart, I do. Then by the power vested in me, I pronounce you husband and wife. Again. And let no one even think about challenging this union. The Reverend's addition earned chuckles from the congregation. You may kiss your bride, William. This kiss was nothing like their first tentative touch, or even their private passionate moments. This was a declaration, a promise made before witnesses, a claim laid before the entire community. When they finally parted, the church erupted in applause. The reception was held at the ranch tables set up in the yard, lanterns strung between the trees, as the afternoon gave way to evening. Anna had never seen so much food. It seemed every family had brought their best dishes. Children ran between the tables while adults danced to the music of an impromptu band formed by local ranchers. May I have this dance, Mrs. Hayes? William asked, offering his hand with formal courtesy. You may, Mr. Hayes, Anna replied, letting him lead her into the cleared space that served as a dance floor. As they waltzed, Anna became aware of the whispers around them, but for once they weren't cruel. Look how happy she is, someone said. Never seen William smile so much, said another. About time something good happened to that girl, from a third. They're all watching, Anna murmured against William's shoulder. Let them, he replied, spinning her gracefully. Let them see that Anna Hayes is loved, cherished, celebrated. Let them see what I see every day, a woman of incredible strength and beauty. As the night wore on, Anna found herself overwhelmed by the outpouring of support. Women who had barely acknowledged her before embraced her warmly. Men who had looked through her like she was invisible now shook her hand and welcomed her properly to the community. It was as if, by claiming her publicly, by fighting for her, William had given others permission to see her as more than her scar and her tragic history. Sheriff Morrison approached as the evening grew late, his wife on his arm. I wanted to thank you, he said quietly. Thank me. Anna was confused. The investigation into your father led to answers about my brother's death. Answers I'd given up hope of finding. Your pain led to some measure of justice for my family. I'm grateful. I'm sorry about your brother, Anna said sincerely. And I'm sorry about your sister, Morrison replied. But maybe both their deaths can mean something now. Tom Carter is gone, he can't hurt anyone else, and you found happiness despite him. That's a kind of justice, too. As the guests finally began to leave full of food and wine and good wishes, Anna and William stood on the porch watching the lanterns flicker in the darkness. No regrets? William asked, pulling her against his side. None, Anna said firmly. This was perfect. It's just the beginning, William promised. We have a whole life ahead of us. Children, if you want them. Years of mornings and evenings, summers and winters, ordinary days and special occasions. A life, Anna. A real life. With you. Always with me. That night in what was now officially their bedroom, Anna stood before William without shame or fear. The lamplight played across her skin, highlighting scars and smooth places equally, and she saw nothing but love and desire in his eyes. You're so beautiful, he said, reverent as a prayer. You make me feel beautiful, Anna replied, moving into his arms. Their lovemaking was different this time, less tentative, more confident. They knew each other's bodies, now knew what brought pleasure, what brought comfort. When William traced her scar with his lips, murmuring words of love against the damaged skin, Anna felt something shift inside her, some last wall crumbling. She was whole. Despite everything, because of everything, she was whole. Later, as they lay tangled together, sweat cooling on their skin, Anna said, I want to tell you something. Anything. That first day in the marketplace when you knelt in the snow, I thought you were mocking me. I thought it had to be a cruel joke. Who would kneel to someone like me? William's arms tightened around her. And now I know you saw me. Not the scar, not the broken girl, but me. The person I could be if someone just gave me the chance. You gave yourself the chance, William corrected. You chose to trust, to hope, to love. That took more courage than anything I did. We saved each other, Anna decided. You from loneliness, me from despair. A good bargain, William agreed, pressing a kiss to her temple. Spring turned to summer and the ranch thrived. Anna learned to manage the household accounts, her quick mind easily grasping the mathematics of profit and loss. She helped with the calving, discovering an affinity for midwifery that surprised everyone, including herself. The cowhands, initially skeptical of the boss's scarred bride, came to respect her steady presence and practical wisdom. It was in late July that Anna first suspected she might be pregnant. The nausea that struck her each morning, the tenderness in her breasts, the exhaustion that hit her in waves, all signs she recognized from helping other women through their confinements. She waited another week to be sure, then another, because she was afraid to hope. Finally, on an evening when William returned from a successful cattle sale in Billings, she decided to tell him. We need to talk, she said as they sat down to dinner. William's face immediately creased with concern. What's wrong? Nothing's wrong. At least I don't think so. I hope not. She was babbling, nervous, as she hadn't been since their wedding. William, I think, that is, I'm fairly certain, we're going to have a baby. The fork fell from William's hand, clattering against his plate. A baby. Are you upset? I know we didn't discuss. She didn't get to finish. William was out of his chair and pulling her into his arms, spinning her around the kitchen while Rosa laughed and clapped from the doorway. A baby, he kept saying, wonder in his voice. Our baby. Anna, A baby. "You're happy?" she asked when he finally set her down. "Happy doesn't begin to cover it," William said, his hands coming to rest on her still flat stomach. Amazed, thrilled, terrified, grateful. So incredibly grateful. "I'm scared," Anna admitted. "What if something happens? What if I'm not a good mother? What if—" "You'll be wonderful," William interrupted firmly. "You're already wonderful. Our child will be the luckiest in Montana having you for a mother." The pregnancy progressed smoothly, though William's protectiveness reached new heights. He tried to forbid her from riding, from gardening, from anything more strenuous than sitting and knitting. Anna tolerated it for about a week before putting her foot down. "I'm pregnant, not made of glass," she informed him. "Women have been having babies while working since the beginning of time. I'm not going to break." But she secretly loved his concern, the way he'd rest his hand on her growing belly, each night talking to the baby about the ranch, about the mountains, about all the things they'd do together. She loved how he'd bring her strange foods when craving struck, riding to town in the middle of the night, once for pickles and molasses, a combination that made Rosa gag but that Anna consumed with relish. The first time the baby kicked, Anna grabbed William's hand and pressed it to her stomach. His face when he felt that tiny flutter of life was something she'd remember forever, joy and awe and love all mixed together. "Hello, little one," he whispered to her belly. "I'm your papa. I already love you so much." As autumn approached and Anna grew heavy with child, an unexpected visitor arrived at the ranch. A woman, elderly but straight-backed, expensively dressed, riding in a private carriage with a driver and footman. "I'm looking for William Hayes," she announced when Anna answered the door. "I'm his wife," Anna said carefully, something about the woman setting her on edge. "He's in the barn." "May I ask who's calling?" The woman studied Anna with sharp gray eyes, eyes that looked remarkably like William's. "I'm Eleanor Hayes, his mother." Anna's hand went protectively to her belly. William had said his family was dead to him, that they'd disowned him after Elizabeth's death. What was his mother doing here? "I'll fetch him," Anna said, but Eleanor caught her arm. "Wait, let me look at you first." Her gaze traveled over Anna's face, lingering on the scar, then dropping to her pregnant belly. "You're not what I expected." "I rarely am," Anna said, lifting her chin defiantly. To her surprise, Eleanor smiled. "Good. William needs someone with spine, someone who won't let him brood himself into an early grave." She paused. "The scar, how did it happen?" "A fire. I was trying to save my sister." Eleanor's expression softened slightly. "And did you save her?" "I got her out, but she died anyway." "I'm sorry. I know what it's like to lose a child, to feel responsible." Eleanor's composure cracked slightly. "I've lost both my children in different ways. Elizabeth to illness, William to my husband's pride, and my own cowardice." Before Anna could respond, William emerged from the barn. He stopped dead when he saw the carriage, the color draining from his face when his mother stepped into view. "William," Eleanor said simply. "Mother." The word was ice, sharp, and cold. "You're not welcome here." "I know, but I came anyway. Your father is dead." William showed no reaction. "Good." "William," Anna gasped, shocked by his coldness. "He was a cruel man who drove Elizabeth to her death and tried to force me into a life that would have killed my soul," William said flatly. "If you've come expecting me to mourn him, you've wasted a journey." "I've come to apologize," Eleanor said, and for the first time her voice wavered. "And to beg your forgiveness. I should have stood up to him, should have protected you and Elizabeth from his ambitions, his cruelty. I was weak, and my weakness cost me everything." "It cost Elizabeth everything," William corrected harshly. "She's the one who died trying to make peace between father and me." "I know," Eleanor said, tears now flowing freely down her carefully powdered cheeks. "I know, and I'll carry that guilt forever. But William, please. You're all I have left, and you're going to be a father. Don't let our failures poison another generation." William was silent for a long moment, his jaw clenched, his hands fisted at his sides. Anna moved to him, taking his hand, feeling the tension thrumming through him. She's right, Anna said softly. Our child deserves to know their grandmother if she's willing to be better than the past. William looked at her surprise and something like betrayal in his eyes. You don't know what they did. No, Anna agreed. But I know what my father did, and I know that holding on to that poison nearly killed me. I know that forgiveness isn't for them, it's for us, so we can be free. William stared at her then at his mother, who stood straight despite her tears, waiting for judgment. You can stay for dinner, he said finally. We'll see about the rest. Eleanor stayed not just for dinner, but for 3 days. Slowly, painfully, she and William talked. Anna heard bits and pieces about Elizabeth's illness, about William's refusal to marry the woman his father had chosen, about the fight that had ended with William banished, and Elizabeth trying desperately to broker peace until the consumption finally claimed her. I should have been there, William said one evening, all three of them sitting by the fire. Should have been with her at the end. She understood, Eleanor said. Her last words were about you. She said to tell you to find happiness, to live the life Father would never let you have. She said to tell you she loved you. William broke, then sobbing like Anna had never seen grieving properly for the sister he'd loved so much. Anna held him, while Eleanor watched her own tears, silent but steady. On the morning Eleanor was to leave, she took Anna aside. Take care of him, she said. He's a good man, better than his father or I deserved. And you're exactly what he needs. Strong enough to stand beside him, brave enough to challenge him, loving enough to heal him. He healed me too, Anna said. We healed each other. Eleanor smiled a real smile that transformed her stern face. Then Elizabeth would be happy. She always believed in the power of love to overcome anything. She pressed a small box into Anna's hands. This was hers. She'd want the baby to have it. Inside was a delicate gold locket with Elizabeth's picture inside, a young woman with William's eyes and a gentle smile. Thank you, Anna said, genuinely touched. I'll write, Eleanor said. If William permits it, and perhaps when the baby comes, you'll be welcome, Anna promised, knowing William would honor her wishes in this. A child should know their family, even the complicated parts. As Eleanor's carriage pulled away, William joined Anna on the porch, his arms settling around her expanded waist. Thank you, he said quietly, for pushing me to forgive her. Everyone deserves a second chance, Anna said. We're proof of that. Yes, William agreed, his hand coming to rest on her belly as the baby kicked. We are. The first snow of winter came early that year, blanketing the valley in pristine white, just as Anna entered her final month of pregnancy. She stood at the window watching the flakes fall, one hand pressed to her lower back, where a persistent ache had settled, the other resting on her enormous belly, where the baby seemed determined to rearrange her ribs from the inside. You should be resting, William said, appearing behind her with a cup of the ginger tea Rosa swore would ease the discomfort. I've been resting all week, Anna protested, though she accepted the tea gratefully. If I rest any more, I'll grow roots. Better roots than risks. William said, his protective instincts having reached almost comical proportions as her due date approached. He'd even tried to convince Doc Morrison to move into their spare room for the duration, an offer the elderly physician had declined with amused patience. The baby will come when it comes, Anna said, then gasped as a particularly sharp pain radiated across her abdomen, though I'm beginning to think sooner rather than later. William's face went pale. Now, is it happening now? Not yet, Anna assured him, though she wasn't entirely certain. She'd been having these pains on and off for days, but Rosa said that was normal, that first babies took their time. Just the baby practicing, I think. But that night, as a blizzard howled outside, practice became reality. Anna woke to a rush of fluid and a contraction that stole her breath. She reached for William, shaking his shoulder urgently. William, wake up! The baby's coming! He was instantly alert, rolling out of bed and lighting the lamp with hands that shook slightly. Are you sure? Another contraction answered for her, this one strong enough to make her cry out. William's face set with determination. I'll ride for Doc Morrison. You can't. Anna gasped, gesturing toward the window, where snow fell so thick they couldn't see the barn. The storm, you'll get lost, freeze to death. We'll have to manage without him. Rosa, then, William said, already pulling on his boots. She's delivered babies before. Rosa appeared in the doorway as if summoned by her name wrapper, hastily thrown over her nightgown. She took one look at Anna's face and nodded. It's time. Miguel, heat water, lots of it. Mr. William, get the clean linens from the cedar chest. What followed were the longest hours of Anna's life. The contractions came in waves, each one threatening to tear her apart. She tried to be brave, tried to be quiet, but as the night wore on and the pain intensified, she couldn't hold back her screams. That's it, mija, Rosa encouraged, wiping sweat from Anna's forehead. Don't fight it. Scream if you need to. This is work, hard work. William refused to leave despite Rosa's attempts to banish him to wait downstairs as was proper. He sat behind Anna on the bed, supporting her weight, his hands steady, even as his face reflected every wave of her pain. I'm sorry, Anna gasped between contractions. I'm being weak. You're the strongest person I know, William said fiercely. You're bringing our child into the world in the middle of a blizzard with no doctor. That's not weak. That's warrior brave. The storm raged outside, matching the storm within Anna's body. Hours passed in a blur of pain and exhaustion. Rosa's encouraging words began to sound worried, and Anna heard her muttering prayers in Spanish. What's wrong? Anna demanded, though she could barely form the words. The baby's turned wrong, Rosa admitted. Shoulder first instead of head. I need to try to turn it. What came next was agony beyond anything Anna had experienced, even the fire. Rosa's hands working inside her, trying to reposition the baby, while Anna screamed and William held her steady, whispering prayers and promises and pleas in her ear. I can't, Anna sobbed, exhausted beyond measure. I can't do this anymore. Yes, you can, William said firmly. You survived your father. You survived the fire. You survived being sold in the marketplace. You can survive this. You're Anna Hayes and you don't give up. The head's in position, Rosa announced triumphantly. Now push, mija. Push with everything you have. Anna pushed. She pushed through pain that threatened to split her in two. She pushed through exhaustion that made her vision blur. She pushed through fear that she might die here, that the baby might die, that all this happiness she'd found would be snatched away at the last moment. And then just as the first pale light of dawn began to filter through the snow-covered windows, a new sound joined the winds howling, the indignant cry of a baby taking its first breath. It's a girl, Rosa announced quickly, cleaning the baby and wrapping her in warm blankets. A perfect, beautiful girl. Anna reached for her daughter with trembling arms, tears streaming down her face, as she looked at the tiny, perfect creature she and William had created. The baby had William's dark hair, but Anna's stubborn chin, and when she opened her eyes, they were that newborn blue that might become any color, but looked at the world with unmistakable curiosity. She's perfect. William breathed, his own tears falling freely as he touched his daughter's tiny fist with one careful finger. Anna, she's absolutely perfect. What should we name her? Anna asked, unable to look away from her daughter's face. Elizabeth, William said immediately. Elizabeth Mary Hayes, for the aunt she'll never meet but who would have loved her fiercely. Elizabeth Mary, Anna repeated, testing the weight of it. Yes, perfect. The storm broke shortly after Elizabeth's birth, as if nature itself had been holding its breath for her safe arrival. Doc Morrison made it to the ranch by noon, pronounced both mother and baby healthy, despite the difficult delivery, and declared Rosa a hero for managing such a complicated birth. You should have been a midwife, he told Rosa. I am a midwife, Rosa replied with dignity, just not one with papers. As Anna recovered from the birth, learning to nurse Elizabeth, to interpret her different cries, to function on almost no sleep, she marveled at how complete her life felt. 3 years ago, she'd been barefoot in the snow being sold like livestock. Now she was a wife, a mother-mistress of a thriving ranch surrounded by people who loved her. But life, Anna had learned, never stayed simple for long. Elizabeth was 3 months old when the letter arrived. William had ridden to town for supplies, leaving Anna enjoying a rare moment of peace while the baby napped. She was sitting on the porch, working on a quilt for Elizabeth's crib, when she saw a rider approaching. Her blood chilled when she recognized Jack Morrison, her father's old drinking companion. But he didn't look threatening, now he looked terrified. Mrs. Hayes, he said, not even dismounting, just holding out an envelope with shaking hands. This came for you, from California. Anna took the letter, frowning at the unfamiliar handwriting. Who would write to me from California? Your father, Morrison said, and Anna's hand froze on the envelope. He's dying. Consumption, they say. He's asking for you. No. The word came out flat, final. He has no right to ask anything of me. I know, Morrison said, surprising her with his agreement. God knows Tom Carter deserves to die alone. But the thing is, Mrs. Hayes, he says he has something to tell you. About your mother, about the fire. Something you need to know. Anna stared at the letter as if it might bite her. Part of her wanted to throw it in the fire unread to let Tom Carter die with his secrets. But another part, the part that still woke sometimes with nightmares of smoke and screaming, needed to know. She opened the letter with trembling fingers. Anna. It read, the handwriting shaky and unfamiliar. Tom must have dictated it to someone. I'm dying. Doctor says I got weeks, maybe less. The consumption's eating me from the inside, and maybe that's what I deserve. I got things to tell you, things about that night, about your mother. Things that might change everything. I know I got no right to ask, but I'm asking anyway. Come to San Francisco. Let me tell you the truth before I die. Let me do one right thing in my worthless life. Tom Carter. Anna read it twice, 3 times, her mind spinning. What truth? What could he possibly tell her that would change anything? When did this arrive? She asked Morrison. 2 days ago. I rode straight here. Figured you should know, even if you decide not to go. William found her still sitting on the porch. An hour later, the letter crumpled in her lap, Elizabeth crying in her arms. He took one look at her face and dismounted quickly, gathering both wife and daughter into his arms. What's happened? Are you hurt? Is Elizabeth? Tom's dying, Anna said numbly. He wants to see me. Says he has something to tell me about the fire, about my mother. William's expression darkened. It's a trick. Another manipulation. Maybe, Anna agreed. Probably. But what if it's not? What if there's something I need to know? They discussed it late into the night, weighing the risks against the possible rewards. California was far, the journey would take weeks, and Elizabeth was still so young. But the not knowing, Anna argued, would eat at her forever. Then we'll go, William decided. All of us. I won't let you face him alone, and we're not leaving Elizabeth. It's too dangerous for a baby. We'll take the train most of the way, William said. It'll be an adventure. Besides, I think it's time Elizabeth saw more of the world than just Montana. The journey to San Francisco took 2 weeks, even with the railroad covering most of the distance. Elizabeth proved to be a remarkably good traveler, seeming fascinated by the changing landscapes outside the train windows. Anna, however, grew more anxious with each passing mile. San Francisco was overwhelming after the quiet of Montana buildings, climbing toward the sky streets packed with carriages and pedestrians, the air thick with smoke and sea salt, and the press of humanity. They found lodgings in a respectable hotel, and William hired a local man to guide them to the address Tom had provided. The boarding house was in a rough part of town, the kind of place where men went to die when they'd run out of money and options. Anna climbed the narrow stairs with William beside her, Elizabeth in his arms, her heart pounding with each step. Tom Carter lay in a narrow bed in a room that stank of sickness and decay. Anna barely recognized him. The booze and disease had wasted him to almost nothing. His skin gray, his breathing labored. His eyes, though, were clear for perhaps the first time in years. You came, he wheezed, genuine surprise in his voice. Didn't think you would. Say what you need to say, Anna said coldly. We won't stay long. Tom's gaze fell on Elizabeth sleeping peacefully in William's arms. She's beautiful. Looks like you did before. He gestured weakly at Anna's scar. Don't, Anna warned. You don't get to play grandfather now. Say what you needed to tell me about the fire. Tom closed his eyes, gathering strength. When he opened them again, tears were leaking down his wasted cheeks. It wasn't an accident. The fire. I said it. The words hit Anna like a physical blow. William's hand found hers gripping tight. You were drunk, Anna said. You knocked over the lamp. No, Tom interrupted. I was drunk, yes, but I knew what I was doing. Your mother and I, we'd been fighting. She'd found out about the money. What money? The money I'd stolen from the mine. The money that got those men killed. Tom's breathing grew more labored. She was going to turn me in, said she couldn't live with a murderer. Said she was taking you girls and leaving. I couldn't let her do that. Couldn't let her ruin me. Anna felt the world tilting. You burned our house down to stop her from leaving. I thought you were all out, Tom said weakly. Saw you walking with the Hartley boy. Thought your mother had taken Mary to the church social. I just wanted to destroy the evidence she'd found the papers that proved what I'd done. But Margaret came back early and Mary was sleeping upstairs. You killed them, Anna said, her voice hollow. You murdered my mother and sister. I didn't mean for them to die, Tom protested, then broke into a coughing fit that brought up blood. When he could speak again, his voice was weaker. But after, when everyone blamed you, it was easier. Let you carry the guilt instead of me. All these years, Anna said, tears flowing freely now. All these years you let me believe it was my fault. You beat me, called me a killer, sold me like property, when all along you were the murderer. I'm sorry, Tom whispered. I know it means nothing, but I'm sorry. The guilt, it ate me alive. The drinking couldn't drown it. Nothing could. I'm glad I'm dying. Glad it's finally ending. Anna stared at the pathetic creature her father had become, waiting to feel something, rage perhaps, or satisfaction, but all she felt was tired. Tired of carrying his sins, tired of being shaped by his cruelty. I forgive you, she said finally, and Tom's eyes widened in shock. Not for you, but for me. For my daughter. I won't carry your poison anymore. I won't pass it on to her. You forgive me. Tom could barely get the words out. After everything? Yes, Anna said simply. You'll die with whatever peace that brings you, but you'll die without me. This is goodbye, Tom. Forever. She turned to leave, but Tom's weak voice stopped her. Anna, your mother, her last words. She said to tell you she loved you, said to tell you to be strong, to survive. Anna nodded once, not turning back, and left the room with William and Elizabeth. They heard Tom's labored breathing stop before they reached the street, but Anna didn't pause, didn't look back. That chapter of her life was closed forever. On the train ride home, Anna was quiet, processing everything she'd learned. William gave her space, but stayed close, a steady presence when the weight of revelation threatened to overwhelm her. It wasn't my fault, she said one evening as they watched the prairie roll by outside their compartment window. All these years, and it was never my fault. I told you that, William said gently. I know, but I couldn't really believe it. Not fully. There was always that voice in my head, Tom's voice, saying I was guilty. Now that voice is gone. How do you feel? Anna considered the question carefully. Free, she said finally. Completely, utterly free. They arrived home to find the ranch thriving under Miguel's temporary management and Rosa desperate to fuss over Elizabeth after 2 weeks apart. Life settled back into its rhythm, but Anna was different, lighter. She smiled more easily, laughed more freely. The scar was still there, would always be there, but it no longer held any power over her. Eleanor Hayes arrived for a visit when Elizabeth was 6 months old, and if she was shocked by Anna's appearance, she hid it well. She was entranced by her granddaughter, spending hours holding her, telling her stories of William as a baby of Elizabeth, the first of a family history that was complicated but ultimately led to this moment, this child, this hope for the future. She has the Hayes stubborn streak, Eleanor observed as Elizabeth refused to nap, preferring to explore the world with wide-eyed wonder. God help us all, William said with a laugh. That night, as they prepared for bed, Anna caught William staring at her with an expression she couldn't quite read. What? She asked, suddenly self-conscious. I was just thinking, he said, pulling her into his arms, about that day in the marketplace. How I almost didn't go to town that morning. How different everything would be if I hadn't seen you there. You saved me, Anna said softly. We saved each other, William corrected, "and we'll keep saving each other every day for the rest of our lives." Elizabeth chose that moment to cry from her cradle, and they both laughed, the moment broken, but somehow made more perfect by the interruption. This was their life, messy, interrupted, complicated, but theirs. As Anna lifted Elizabeth to nurse her, she caught sight of herself in the mirror. The scar was prominent as always, but she barely noticed it anymore. What she saw was a woman who had survived the unsurvivable, who had found love when she'd believed herself unlovable, who had created life and beauty from ashes and pain. "You're staring," William observed from the bed. "I'm seeing," Anna corrected, "really seeing myself for the first time." "And what do you see?" Anna turned from the mirror, Elizabeth contentedly nursing in her arms, and smiled at her husband. "I see Anna Hayes, wife, mother, survivor. I see someone beautiful." "You are beautiful," William said firmly. "You always have been." "I know," Anna said, and for the first time in her life, she truly meant it. Summer came to Montana with unusual warmth that year, painting the valley in shades of green and gold. Elizabeth grew strong and healthy, crawling with determined purpose, pulling herself up on furniture, babbling in a language only she understood, but delivering her opinions with great conviction. It was during the 4th of July celebration in town that Anna realized how completely her life had transformed. She stood with William at the barbecue, Elizabeth on her hip, accepting congratulations from neighbors on winning the pie contest. The same people who had once looked at her with pity or disgust now treated her as an integral part of the community. "Mrs. Hayes," Tom Hartley approached, his manner completely changed from their last encounter. "I wanted to apologize for what I said before. It was cruel and wrong." Anna studied him, noting the genuine remorse in his eyes. His wife stood beside him, pregnant with their first child, looking nervous. "We all have things we regret, Mr. Hartley," Anna said carefully. "The important thing is to learn from them." "Yes," he agreed eagerly. "And I have. I wanted you to know that." As he walked away, William appeared at her side. "That was gracious of you." "I'm tired of carrying anger," Anna said. "It's too heavy, and I have better things to hold." She kissed Elizabeth's chubby cheek, making the baby giggle. That evening, as fireworks painted the sky in brilliant colors, Anna stood surrounded by the family she'd built. William's arm was around her waist, Elizabeth sleeping against her shoulder. Rosa and Miguel nearby with their own extended family. Eleanor had extended her visit, unable to tear herself away from her granddaughter. "Happy?" William asked quietly. "Beyond happy," Anna replied. "I never imagined I could have this. Never thought I deserved it." "You deserve the world," William said firmly, "and I intend to give it to you one day at a time." As the fireworks reached their climax, Anna thought about the journey that had brought her here. From a barefoot, scarred girl being sold in the marketplace to a beloved wife and mother, respected member of the community, mistress of a thriving ranch. It hadn't been easy. There had been pain-fear moments when she'd wanted to give up, but she'd survived. More than survived, she'd thrived. "What are you thinking about?" William asked, noticing her contemplative mood. "The future," Anna said. "Elizabeth growing up, maybe brothers and sisters for her. Years of harvests and holidays, of ordinary mornings and special occasions. Growing old with you." "That sounds perfect," William said, pressing a kiss to her temple. "It does," Anna agreed. "Perfect in all its imperfection." As they walked home under the stars, Elizabeth stirring in her sleep, Anna felt a deep sense of contentment settle over her. The scar was still there, it would always be there, but it no longer defined her. She was so much more than her trauma, so much more than her past. She was Anna Hayes, and she was finally, truly, completely free. The letter from Eleanor arrived 2 months later, containing news that would change everything once again. William's father's will had finally been settled, and despite his attempts to disinherit William, the law had prevailed. As the only surviving son, William had inherited everything: the estate in Boston, the shipping business, a fortune that would make them wealthy beyond imagination. "We could move back east," William said, though his tone suggested how little the idea appealed to him. "Give Elizabeth advantages we never dreamed of." Anna looked around their kitchen, where Elizabeth was playing with wooden spoons on the floor, where Rosa was kneading bread where sunlight streamed through windows that looked out on their beautiful valley. Elizabeth already has everything she needs, Anna said firmly. Love family home. That's worth more than all the money in Boston. You're sure it's a fortune, Anna. You'd never have to worry about anything again. I haven't worried since the day you knelt in the snow and called me beautiful, Anna said. Money can't buy what we have here. William pulled her into his arms, relief evident in his embrace. Thank God. I didn't want to leave either. This is our home. Then we stay, Anna said simply. We use the money to make the ranch even better to help our neighbors when they need it to ensure Elizabeth and any other children we have get good educations. But we stay. We stay, William agreed. That night, as autumn's first chill touched the air, Anna stood at their bedroom window, watching the stars appear one by one. William came up behind her, wrapping his arms around her waist, and she leaned back against his solid warmth. No regrets, he asked as he had on their wedding day. None, Anna said, turning in his arms to face him. How could I regret the path that brought me to you, to Elizabeth, to this life? Even the pain, the scar. Anna touched her marked face thoughtfully. Especially those. They made me who I am. They brought me to that marketplace on that particular day. They brought me to you. William kissed her, then soft and deep, full of love and promise and forever. When they parted, he rested his forehead against hers. I love you, Anna Hayes. And I love you, William Hayes. From down the hall, Elizabeth cried out in her sleep, and they both smiled. I'll go, son, William said. We'll both go, Anna corrected. Together. They walked hand in hand to their daughter's room, where Elizabeth had pulled herself to standing in her crib, tears on her chubby cheeks from a bad dream. Anna lifted her, holding her close, while William rubbed her back, and within moments she was calm, safe in her parents' arms. See, Anna whispered to her daughter. Nothing to fear. Mama and Papa are here. You're safe. You're loved. You're home. And as Elizabeth settled back to sleep, Anna knew she was speaking to herself as much as her daughter. After years of fear and pain of believing herself worthless and unlovable, she had found safety. She had found love. She had found home. The scar would always be there, a map of her survival written across her face. But it no longer told a story of shame and loss. Now it told a story of courage, of resilience, of a woman who had walked through fire and emerged not destroyed, but transformed. As she laid Elizabeth back in her crib and walked with William back to their room, Anna caught sight of herself in the hallway mirror. The woman looking back at her bore little resemblance to the frightened girl from the marketplace. This woman stood tall, confident, loved. This woman was beautiful, not in spite of her scars, but because of everything they represented. Coming to bed? William asked from the doorway. Yes, Anna said, turning away from the mirror with a smile. I'm coming home.